what a climactic ending to Weiss's arc. I mean, man, best story ever. Am I right? Oh, wait a minute. I would be saying that had they not focused on politics and allegories for 2016 and completely just sidelined and made Weiss's whole entire arc an afterthought. I'm sorry that they did that to you, Weiss. Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So Volume 7, Chapter 9 has finally been released to the public, so it is time to review the chapter. And we have a lot to talk about here. I mean, there is a lot to this chapter to talk about. So let's get straight into it. So, following what we last left off with, we know that Ironwood was attending Jacques' super important allegory-based dinner that is completely a reference to Orange Man Bad and those dinners that he has and that he's very well known for, right? So, Ironwood is someone that everybody tends to dog because they think that they can't trust him because he's been trying to hide the fact of everything that he's got planned so that he can reveal everything that he has planned. And of course you have Robin Hill who decides, well, you keep hiding things. So why don't we put it to the test with what I believe is the most useless semblance I have ever seen in my life. It is god-awful. This semblance is terrible. So Miss Walking Lie Detector comes up, and as she is about to reveal the truth of Ironwood, Weiss walks in, and she is ready to reveal the truth of her own that she has discovered. All thanks to her mother revealing to her that she had hidden cameras within the manor and that had tabs on everything that went on if in case something were to happen that she would have had to use them for in the future had something terrible happen. Whatever that may be, because, Willow kind of just shut herself off at that moment from saying it because the writers can't ever talk about it. And it's the scene that we had seen in Chapter 4 with Jacques and Watts conspiring to work together to rig the election so that it will fall in Jacques' favor and that he will win. And then, of course, when this is revealed to everyone, people are upset and astonished. And this is also a reference, by the way, because what Jacques says here is he says, oh, wait, I can explain. That's not real. Well, when he loses his composure like this and throws that out there, this is a reference to journalism because, anytime that journalists, which they lie all the time, they try to say that anything that's true is a lie. This is a reference to that, by the way. So, as Jacques is trying to escape, the Armagigus that Weiss has summoned is in the doorway, preventing him from leaving. Now, one thing I have to say about this entire scene, because, think about it like this. So, Jacques gets caught, right, with the footage. Now, several things I want to bring up with him getting caught here. Okay, so, of course, we see Jacques getting caught conspiring with Watts to rig the election so that he will get a seat on the council. And, of course, his entire plot was, I want a seat on the council. That's literally it. And it turns out, because nobody questions anything, he is just done. Weiss's big bad villain, over with, finished. Now, while some people are glad to see Jacques gone, I think this is a problem. Now, let me explain why I think this is a problem. For one, so remember, Penny was framed earlier in this volume, right? She was framed with killing people at Robin Hill's party. And thing is, we know that that wasn't her. But, of course, they're trying to make sure that, oh, she was actually innocent. We have to prove this. And the thing is, when it comes to Jacques, oh, nobody questions this. Especially considering seeing that Watts is supposedly dead, right? He's supposed to be a character that's dead. But nobody seems to question that this is true or not. And so because of that, they just immediately think, oh, well, Jacques is guilty, and yeah, let's not question if that was really Watts or not. Let's not question if that was real or not. Let's not question whether somebody's trying to smear Jacques or not. Oh, no. They have to just say, oh, yes, this is automatically true. Also, Jacques, you would think that he would probably go to a disclosed area talking about this, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment as to why. But one thing I got to bring up is Robin Hill. Why is she still here? Reason why I ask this is because she performed a terrorist action against her own country by trying to, one, threaten Huntsman, and she was going to attack them, to steal 2, she would be stealing not just as a crime, but from the Atlas military. I mean, that's deemed as a terrorist. I don't know why this character was still there other than being a Hillary Clinton allegory. And you would think, considering that Ironwood also said, arrest this character, you would have thought they would have arrested her when she was at the dinner. I still don't even understand why she showed up to the dinner, considering that she herself is a criminal. So many things don't add up or make any sense here, but of course, it's so that the writers can live their fantasy of how Hillary Clinton should have won the 2016 election and Orange Man Bad should never have won. This is all it is. It's just delusion rather than moving forward. But let's talk about Whitley for a minute. Now, this is a moment I actually did enjoy because Whitley himself, they have been setting him up for redemption as of the previous chapter. And the thing is, I hope that Whitley actually does get redemption here. And seeing that this has affected him, seeing how the family has brought up how there have been so many problems, this really starts to show you more of Whitley being a victim. And this is one scene that I have to give credit to because Whitley himself being left behind, only having his parents, his mother being a crippling, depressed alcoholic, and his father, well, from what we've only heard, being an abuser. Thing of that is, we've only heard it. We haven't seen it, which is one of the biggest problems with RWBY is the fact that you don't just leave things up to interpretation. You need to show these things. It adds more emotional weight, and it really helps you have more of an idea of what's been going on. And the family obviously has emotional issues. They've had some kind of trauma, but yeah, they don't really show it. Another thing that I want to bring up here, when it comes to Jacques, which everybody needs to remember, he is the owner of the Schnee Dust Company. He is the president of it. Big thing is, why didn't Weiss come to the thought of, well, something bad could actually happen had he just get arrested? I mean, why didn't she just show this to Winter and talk this over with her first before immediately jumping to just getting him caught and arrested? You see, the big thing about this is that what's going to happen with the Schnee Dust Company now? In fact, it's the biggest realtor of dust in all of Remnant. So that's also going to affect the chain of how the company works and distribution. I don't know why Weiss didn't think this one through. I mean, Whitley is probably still too young to even run a company or even understand how to run one, unless he's going to become the Seto Kaiba of RWBY, which I highly doubt is going to happen. But there's just a big problem there. Not only that, but I want to bring this problem up as well. When Weiss comes in, it's very, very swift and abrupt, because there's more reaction from Winter, Willow, and Whitley than there is from Weiss. Weiss just comes in and just decides, I'm going to arrest my father. Here's the evidence right here. You're under arrest. There's nothing. There's no emotional payoff here. It's just, oh, well, under arrest, and Jacques is done. Thing is, Jacques is the biggest antagonist to Weiss's story. This entire volume should have been about Weiss and the conflict between her father and her crippling, depressed, alcoholic mother. But instead, we don't get that. Instead, they make Weiss's entire story an afterthought, and they just have Jacques be a reference to Orange Man Bad in the 2016 presidential election, which is absolutely insulting to Weiss's character, because this character arc was meant to be hers. This was not meant to be an allegory to something that doesn't even relate to RWBY. And it's terrible to see that they just throw Weiss aside like this. There is no payoff here because, okay, yeah, Jacques gone, but what development does this do for Weiss? I don't like how this turned out, and this doesn't give us any understanding at all of what Weiss went through growing up. And this is a problem because this is what this arc should have done and established. After all, what you must remember, Jacques is the reason for Weiss becoming the way she was. For her tsundere personality, for her closing people off. It is all because of her father's actions growing up, or at least that's what they lead us to believe. Without showing us this, without letting us know what really happened, well, that doesn't do anything for Weiss. Ultimately, there is no payoff. The build-up is just completely demolished. And the thing is, the only character who really seems affected by this entire situation is Whitley. I mean, you would think that Weiss would also have been affected. You would have thought that maybe Weiss would say something about this, other than you're under arrest. But it doesn't play off as Jacques being the father role in this. It doesn't play off at all that he is even in relation to the family. And this really just hurts what Weiss's arc should have actually been, and it could have been done exceedingly better. But hey, when Jacques is getting arrested, we do get a glimpse of Best Girl in the series because, Best Girl has been sitting there the whole entire time at the dinner and she's been listening in on information that she needs to know about. And I'm going to tell you right now, I like the reference back to Volume 3 with the black hair and the green eyes. Another thing I'm going to say, Ice Cream Girl makes me want some, if you know what I mean. But yeah, seeing the scene, I'm going to get into more of that in just a moment. But one thing that also did bother me was the ship baiting. Now, remember, Volume 7 is supposed to be about Weiss. This is supposed to be her dedicated character arc. But rather than the writers focusing on Weiss, they make her an afterthought to politics being the priority, which has nothing to do with her character, as well as cringy ship baiting moments, which has nothing to do with her character. The big problem is that this scene alone could have been taken out. The politics could have been taken out to focus on Weiss's character and to better help us understand her past, to show us what she went through with her father and with her mother. Instead, they take scenes like these rather than focusing on Weiss and leaving her as nothing more than an afterthought, which, for one, this scene was very cringy in itself because it's just basically about Oscar and Ruby trying to figure out who's going to tell Ironwood about Salem, but it just takes away from the substance of what this volume is meant to be, which is Weiss's character arc. And seeing how many chapters they've had to work on this, it's really disgraceful to Weiss's character arc. It really is. And Weiss's character was treated as nothing more than an afterthought to political agenda. It's just disgraceful to her character arc. It really is. It's bad writing, straight up. And so, of course, now they think is the time to tell Ironwood that Salem can't be killed. So, because he comes up with the idea, because all along Ironwood was going to tell everybody, he just needed to get Amity Arena, retcon by the way, into orbit to let everybody know, even though he was going to tell everybody the truth, they're like, oh no, we're not going to tell you because we can't trust you because you're hiding the truth from people. What? And Ruby's doing it because, oh look, it's okay. We're going to be cautious because we can't trust this man despite the fact that he's given us our hunter's license and helped us upgrade our weapons, gave us new clothing. Oh, Ruby, you frustrate me so. You frustrate me so. At least Oscar's cool, but Ruby, you frustrate me so. And then, of course, they do this at the time that an event's going down is when they believe is the best time to tell everybody about Salem. Despite the fact that the Amity Arena plan could still be sabotaged by Watts, but hey, whatever, right? But the other big thing here to think about is that seeing the scene between Ren and Nora, one of them is going to die. I mean, there's red flags here at this point because Nora's got a backstory still coming up that we haven't even seen, and it just seems like it's possible that one of these two is probably going to die by the end of this volume. As much as I like Ren and Nora, despite Nora's outburst, which I think should have been Weiss's outburst of anybody's, because, Weiss is the one that we know of is actually from Atlas. I mean, Nora might be, but we don't know that yet, so I can't say, right? But the thing is that, like I said, Weiss should have been the central focus of this chapter, if anything. I mean, she should have been the central focus of the entire volume, and then this happens. Of course, as they're flying down to Mantle, though, Grimm attacks it, and they lose a part of the wing. Of course, Clover has his moment, which you would think, considering that they're at such a high altitude, wouldn't have Clover have flown out of the freaking door whenever he opens the door up? Wouldn't you have imagined that it flew out? This is the problem I have with his symbols of good luck, because it's like everything good just happens to this guy. He's too perfect. There's no way he's not a villain. But we got to talk about Mantle, because the other big issue here is that people are rioting because, oh, we lost heat. Oh, no. Okay, so I have a question. All right, so people are rioting because Watts turns off the heat. They start taking the dust, and they start going out in public. They start burning everything, right, so that they can have heat. So here is my question to a couple things. Number one, you see the Atlas bots come out. Now, this is the first thing I want to bring up. For one, it shows you that Atlas military hasn't learned their lesson because they're still depending upon the bots that easily got hacked, and then, of course, these very same bots turned on people back in Volume 3, and then, of course, what do the people rioting do? The people rioting think, oh look, attack the military because this is how we should respond. What? Who rioting would go after the military? And here's the other thing. They just take down these bots like it's nothing when it's the military, okay? The military should be trained to take care of these situations. Like, if you were to go out, and I'm not saying do this, don't do this. I do not condone doing this, don't do this. But if you were to go and attack a police officer, they're going to retaliate. And it's the military. Military is 100 times worse than what the police would be. So I don't know what these people were thinking by attacking the bots. And of course, because of this rioting, this attracts the Grimm. It attracts them more so than ever. And you see a bunch of mammoth Grimm starting a stampede towards Atlas. But let me ask this next question, because another thing that doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so Watts turns off the heating. Why do they only have one heating source? Wouldn't you think that every single building would have heating inside of their homes? Now, also, I want to remind you that when Watts turns this off, if you'll notice something, all of the electronics, the lights, technology is still on, because remember, dust may be the primary source, but the secondary is actual electricity. Now here's where I have a huge problem here. Why is it that all the houses have to rely upon one huge heat engine when they should all have their own built-in heating system? So what this does is this just makes the people of Atlas look dumber for having to rely upon one built-in heating system. And I'm going to talk about another flaw in just a moment of Watts' plan. But Best Girl Neo is here, finally, all the way into Chapter 8. And yes, she was in Chapter 8. She was in the scene when Winter starts to storm out, and she brushes past the butler. How dare you, Winter? Apologize to Neo. But yes, Neo was actually in Chapter 8. Now, what I like about this scene with Neo here is that they didn't let you know that she was there until this chapter. So the previous chapter, you just thought, oh, well, Winter just stormed past some butler. Oh, no, that was Neo all along, and I like that. And of course, I'm glad to see Cinder back as well. I mean, I know I'm in the minority of liking her character, but personal opinion. And of course, they're looking for something. Neo seems to have gotten the information. Now, if anything, at this point, Neo and Cinder are going to be the only characters to, in my opinion, save this show. Unless they decide to screw them over, I will be livid. I will be very livid. Because I can tell you right now, protagonist story with politics is definitely not saving this show. That's a 100% bet right there. So, Neo, please, save this show. You're our only hope. So, if I had to give this chapter an overall score, it would be a 4 out of 10. There were some good, but mostly bad. Now, let me explain what I mean. So, we'll just rip the band-aid off and we'll get to the worst parts first. Jacques as a character. Now, I know there are some people out there that are just really glad to see that Jacques has been taken down, but you have to remember, Jacques is the main antagonist to Weiss's story. The big thing is one, he is her biggest problem, considering that he, from what we've been told, remember, told, not shown, and many will argue that, oh, well, it's best left up to interpretation. No, it's not, because the weight of everything comes from being shown. When you get to see it through the character's eyes, not just be told, you understand how heavy it actually was for them in their life. I mean, Weiss's backstory is what shaped her into the person she is today. It's what molded her into who she is. That's the thing. Without us seeing that backstory, we can only go by what we've been told and not know exactly what happened. So, of course, they can say, well, Jacques was abusive, but what abusive things did he exactly do? What made him so awful? See, that's the problem. Also, Jacques, thing is that he was taken care of so easily. What development did Weiss really get here? She didn't. It was just, oh, look, I arrested my father. Now, the payoff didn't happen. I mean, yeah, okay, you get rid of Jacques, but where's the payoff? how does that amount? What does that do for Weiss ultimately? I mean, the only characters we really saw affected by this seemed to be Winter, Willow, and especially Whitley. And that's the thing. It's good what they're doing with Whitley because it looks like he's a character that was obviously a victim and he is set up for redemption. But the thing of it is, Weiss herself has no emotional connection to Jacques here. There is no breakdown. There is no fight between her and Jacques. Now, when I mean fight, I don't mean physical. I mean verbal. There's no emotional dispute there between the two. And that's a problem because how does this develop Weiss? It just gets her antagonist out of the way. It doesn't really have a good solution to the end of the story here. That's my biggest problem with how this resulted. And Jacques could have been more than what he was. He could have been a huge antagonist, considering that Dust, whenever humanity was born, Dust was the source that helped humanity push back the Grimm. Now, that would have been great had Jacques stayed in a little longer and actually became an asset to Salem, if he had actually known he was working with her. Of course, he didn't, but you get my point. That would have been great for her, having all that dust to be able to use at her arsenal. It would have been insane. But also, you have to look at this. Jacques was just used as nothing more than a political allegory, and it's stupid. It's as I've always said, you want to go into politics and talk politics, then be a politician. Don't push your politics into entertainment because nobody cares about it. And this is what has ultimately hurt Weiss's character arc, as well as has ultimately hurt the storytelling in Volume 7. And that's the thing. They wanted to make Volume 7 political. And instead of Weiss having her character arc be the main plot, they just made Weiss's character arc be nothing more than an afterthought. And it's just hurtful to see them just throw Weiss under the bus like this. This is not character development. I mean, all it really is, okay, she gets rid of her dad, but there's no substance. And I hate that. It's just so bad when there could have been so much more they could have done here for Weiss and her arc. It's sad. It's sad to see that happen. And with Watts, here's something I want to bring up. So, of course, there was cameras in the Schnee Manor. Well, here's the big thing. Wouldn't Jacques have known that, considering that he's the president of the Schnee Dust Company? I mean, wouldn't he need to have cameras on him to make sure that nothing actually happens? I mean, considering that back in Volume 1, the Schnees were actually being attacked by the White Fang and their friends and family were being killed. So, the whole thing with Watts happening, and Jacques getting caught, I mean, you would think that Jacques would have said, hey, let's go to a disclosed location and talk about this. That's another problem I have. I mean, naturally, there should have been cameras there, so that's kind of strange that Willow had to set them up. And then, of course, Watts getting caught on this. I mean, he could have just done what he did with Penny's eyes and just, I guess you could say, just made it as if he never appeared there. Don't know why he didn't just do that. Doesn't make any sense to me. So many problems here, so many issues. I mean, and besides the heating, are you kidding me? They had electricity still. They could have had heaters in their house. Come on. But the only other good thing besides Whitley was Neo, and they hit her in Chapter 8, and you would never have known she was the butler. I thought that was great. And then they revealed it in Chapter 9. So, Neapolitan, you are our only hope. Please help us, Neapolitan. You are our only hope. Because if they screw her over, I'm going to rant so hard. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday. Let me know what you think about this entire chapter down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is unsubscribing people from their favorite channels. So make sure you're still subscribed to all your favorite channels. Hit the video with a like if you enjoyed. And be sure to share the video on social media. Spread the word and get it out there. It's greatly appreciated and it really helps out the channel a lot. Also, be sure to follow me on Discord. We have a wonderful community there, and also there are updates on videos or any upcoming events, so be sure to check it out. Links in the description down below, and I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today, and remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.